Hey guys, welcome back to Tim's Garage.
Today we're installing a Dakota Digital Dash.
This is the VHX series. If you're familiar with Dakota Digital, this is their latest and greatest, more modern style gauges. I'll show you the gauges and the install on the gauges later. Right now we're going to install basically the brain of the whole system. This is the module that comes with it that needs to be mounted, and then all the cables. This cable's for connecting the brain to the gauges. These three cables are for speed sensor, temperature sensor, and oil pressure sensor. It comes with all the fittings, the senders, mounting hardware, all the stuff you need to mount this in. This kit's specific for the Mustang. So we're going to start by mounting the brain or the module. This just needs to be screwed up underneath the dash, somewhere that's accessible. You will have to attach all these wires, and it uses a small screwdriver to tighten them into their proper location. So the more accessible this is, the easier it is for you to hook up all the wires. You could let it hang and hook up the wires, then try to screw it up under the dash, but I prefer just to mount this and then run all my wires to it. Makes for a clean install. Okay, you can see that I mounted the brain of the Dakota Digital, just two self-tappers. It's easily to access, read, so hooking up the wires shouldn't be an issue. Next we're going to install the oil pressure sensor, the water temp sensor, and then this is for the speedometer. This is the electronic part of it. This will screw on to the bullet that's already in the tail shaft of the tranny. After we get those mounted, then we'll hook up all their proper cables and run them inside. Okay, so we're going to install the temp sensor, or the temp sender. This is the one that comes with the kit. Different vehicles are going to have senders in different locations. This is a new crate motor. It does not have anything installed. If you have an existing car that's already running driving, you just need to find the factory temp sensor. Usually it's going to be in the front of the intake. It could very well be in the side of the head, but usually it's just a single wire in an older vehicle, but it's in a water passage. And then this is an 1/8 inch pipe thread, which is too small for this hole. The kit comes with a series of adapters. Just find the right adapter for your application, and then install that, and then install your sensor in the top of that. Okay, so we'll install the adapter first. That good and snug. And then we'll install the sender. That's good and snug. And that's it for the temp sender install. Now this is the harness, comes with the kit. This one, it's already got the weather pack sealed connector on there, and it's long enough to run to the interior of the vehicle. Right now I'm just gonna plug it in, and then we'll run the wires a little bit later. As you can see, I already installed the oil pressure sensor and attached the harness for it. You can find the oil pressure sender typically near the oil filter or on the rear of the block, up by the intake manifold. Install this just like we did the water temp sender, and then hook up the appropriate harness. This is the speedometer sensor hooked up to the speedo bullet in the tail shaft of the tranny. It just threads on to the bullet that's in the tranny, and then just plug in the appropriate connector for that and run it inside. I started wiring up Dakota Digital. This Mustang has a American Auto Wire harness in it, so all the wires are labeled, so it makes the hookup pretty easy. For vehicles that have the factory style harness in it, try to get a wiring diagram, or when you remove the instrument cluster, you can find most of these wires where they go from on the back of the gauges. But wiring diagrams be a good thing to have when you're doing this. Save some time from tracing wires, trying to figure out what's what. Everything's labeled on the brain, so just follow the instructions. Hook up the harnesses they have for all the senders, and then you need to do the power, grounds, left right turn indicator, high beam indicator. There are some options for cruise control and automatic transmission selection. Just follow the instructions. I'm going to finish wiring this up. Okay, you can see I finished wiring the brain for the instrument cluster. I have all the power, ground, turn signals, high beam wired up, and then all the harnesses for the senders, fuel, oil, water, the tack, all that's wired up. So next I'm going to get started on the instrument cluster, the actual gauge install. All the components, these are the individual gauges that will go back into the factory bezel. I have a new bezel. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is, there's a black plastic panel that comes with a kit. You have to use your original wiper switch. You'll install that per the instructions with their hardware, and this is going to now slide over the gauges, but you got to make sure you fish these wires through. And make sure your wiper arm goes through the front of the dash. I've also already tightened up all the gauges so they're orientated. Just use what the kit gave you. Okay, you can see that black panel's on there, all the gauges are in there. The wiper switch is all in there. Okay, now we're gonna plug in all the harnesses. Pretty simple. They have LEDs, so the factory turn signals can work, or you can use the turn signals that are built into the Dakota Digital itself. I'm gonna hook up the factory turn indicators because they're there. Might as well make them work. So plug those harnesses in. I have to do a little wiring for those. And there's also another cable that connects the tachometer to the speedometer. Then you plug in corresponding connectors, just like that. That pretty much completes the wiring for the gauges. Just need to install this in the car. Plug in your wiper switch. Plug in this other cable that connects the brain to the gauges, and then we'll test it out. Alright guys, so I got the instrument cluster installed. I hooked up the main wire for the gauges. Then I also hooked up the factory style turn signal indicators. Powered the system up. The key on. Then with the headlights on. The car doesn't run, so I can't show you the operation of the gauges, but you can imagine that. And then this is the turn signals. And that's it for the install. Thanks for tuning in.